from the MCPLive.tv studios, located in downtown Conroe, it's the Conroe Art League, live.
Hello and welcome to Cal Live. This is the show that brings you what you need to know about the Conroe Art League. We're here to introduce you one by one to all the Cal members so that you can learn more about these talented artists and the beautiful work that they create. My name is Marilyn Lowry, and I'm delighted to be your host today. I'm a longtime member of the Conroe Art League, and my guest today is Cal artist Terri Harris. Hi, Terri. We're so glad to have you today.
Well, thank you.
I can't wait to learn more about your stories and all about the work you create, because I love your work anyway. It's just so beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So welcome, and I think maybe we'll start at first about talking a little bit about your life and how you got started and where you're from and your family maybe. So we just start there.
Okay, that's good. Well, I'm from New Orleans originally.
And you won't know that until you listen to her voice a while.
That's right, until you listen to the accent. And I'm from New Orleans, and I'm from family of 5. My dad had 3 girls, and I'm the middle child, the middle daughter. And we grew up in New Orleans. Most of our family was there on dad's side and mom's side. And I guess I got interested in art. Well, we used to go to the French Quarter every once in a while on Sundays. And back then they had tons of artists, real artists, around Jackson Square. And I'd go look at all the art. And then I remember my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she had all these pen and ink drawings of sort of like pinup girls doing laundry with short shorts, and they were from like 1938 through 1940, and I thought that was so cool. I know of these drawings, and I still have them. I was the one that did get them after she passed away, and so I just continued just doing a little bit of drawing here and there, and when I had the opportunity to take art in high school, I took 3 years of high school art. Where we studied, everything, basic to drawing, to acrylics, to a little painting, to pastels, a little bit of 3D work.
So you've experimented in all of it, but you eventually formulated some favorites.
Yeah, then I didn't quite think, everybody thought back then it was oil paintings, which was really difficult because we were on a platoon system. So half the school went in the morning, half went in the afternoon, so you had 40-minute sessions for each of your classes. And trying to do any painting or trying to do anything in 40 minutes and pick up was like
impossible.
A whirlwind of time. But I loved it. But, and I thought my first thing I wanted to go into when I grew up was going to be a medical illustrator.
I love this story. This is great. What did your dad think about that?
My dad said, because we started looking at how do you be a medical illustrator? Well, you go to college and you study that. And the only schools that offer it was like Tulane, Johns Hopkins, all these medical type schools. Right. And he's like, and suppose you don't get into it. You're going to go in Jackson Square and paint kidneys and livers and hope that someone's going to buy your art. And I said, you're right. And I was really, no one else in my family had gone to college yet. So that was a big stretch to think I could go to a private institution and do all that. And so I put art aside because I really did like even math more than science. And my dad was in the oil industry, and of course I'm in Louisiana, so I went to LSU and I became a petroleum engineer.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. And I'm just amazed at the number of Cal artists we have who have science backgrounds. And yours is, I never think about that when I see your work or when I see some of their work, and I just, and then all of a sudden when I find out they have this degree in engineering, I'm like blown away.
So I didn't really do much art, although I did a few little sketches of oil rig derricks and things to put in the petroleum engineering department.
Oh, well, that's good.
And I had gone back like 15 or 20 years later, and there were those little pen and ink sketches of old things. So anyway, so I worked for about 10 years in the oil industry, and
you go offshore sometimes?
Sometimes, not very often. I actually had inland water. I had the worst. I worked in the swamps of Louisiana was my field. I was mostly office, but every once in a while I had to go down to Houma way,
okay.
and it's the fields that I looked over.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
That sounds challenging, but exciting.
It was
probably.
challenging because there wasn't very many women back then.
Right.
There wasn't very many women.
Imagine. Wow. Well, that's so you worked there, and then after that,
After after I don't know 7 years or so of working and slowing myself down, because by then we moved back to New Orleans, my husband and I, and I said I need something else to occupy myself. So I found an art studio in Slidell, which is the North Shore of New Orleans where we were living, and I met a wonderful lady, Dawn Bosch. I still keep in contact with her. She's 83, and she had like a sew and circle art class. You bring what you wanted to work on, whatever medium, oil, pastel, watercolor, etc., and she'll help you. And you bring your subject.
she must have had a lot of knowledge in all the different areas.
She really did, and she was she's just a wonderful woman. So I was doing oils then.
Okay.
And after I think about a year or two, because I wasn't doing a whole lot because I was still working and having to make the commute into New Orleans every day. I was expecting my first child, and I said, well, I don't want to do oils, so I better do some watercolors.
Okay.
So I found the local, the junior high was offering adult beginning watercolor class.
Okay.
And her name was Tanya Wollerston. She was in New Orleans at the time, but she is in the Houston area now, another great artist, and she's taught at the Lone Star College, too.
Fantastic.
I took watercolor class, and I'm like, this is really nice. The cleanup,
yes, so much easier.
everything. And so I continued, and about my 8th month of pregnancy, we moved to Dallas. But there was a little, they called it Heritage Center in Grapevine. We were in the town of Grapevine, Texas, outside of Dallas. And I could keep up my art then, because even with a baby, because our little neighborhood had a babysitting co-op. Someone would watch your child for a few hours if you watched their child.
What a wonderful idea.
I know. So I got to continue just, painting and enjoying art. And the other thing is enjoying meeting new friends and meeting artist friends.
And you told me that was kind of like another sewing circle.
It was another type of sewing circle class. You came, everybody,
Bring
the
your
artists
own
hung
thing,
out. And, there was a lady, her name was Karen Devendinko, I believe. And, she would come around and help you if you had questions. And
How fun is that?
Yeah. So,
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And that kept you going with your art throughout the time that you had your children?
Yeah, throughout the time. And in Dallas, so we were there about 2.5 years, and I had both my kids in Dallas, so they're both Texans.
Okay.
True and true. And then we moved back to New Orleans.
You still keep getting back over there.
I know.
Sliding across that border every once in a while.
And they had an art league there, the Slidell Art League, and I joined that and became involved with the art league there, and I kept still doing watercolors. Still not really knowing what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't know any genre I wanted to paint, or I hadn't really focused quite on it, like I do now with my still lifes.
Sure.
And then we moved to Scotland after 2 years.
Wow. A lot of wonderful experiences.
A lot of wonderful. So we had kids in preschool up until about 8 years old, and I was part of the American Wives Club, and they would have once a year they would have like craft shows, etc. shows, which I participating. So I was drawing and painting a lot of castles and a lot of thistles.
I'll bet you did.
They all wanted souvenirs of the castles and thistles. So.
Yes, I imagine, and probably everybody at home loved it.
Everybody at home did love it. I did manage to do one Scottish landscape. My husband loved this mountain, Mount Benaghy, I think it was called. He used to go bike riding up it, and I took a little weekend class on how to paint this mountain, just so he could have that. But
that's awesome. And you also told me that you collected a lot of items while you were there.
I did. I see them here now, but it wasn't like it was back then. They are, the British people and Scottish people, they travel around the world constantly. So they're always bringing back souvenirs or knickknacks or this and things. Plus, they have a lot of old things.
They do.
And they had charity shops everywhere. I just collected all kinds of teacups, teapots, little individual teapots. coppers that look like they're from Egypt or other bizarre countries. So I started collecting at these antique stores, even if they're not the highest quality. But no one ever knows.
Well, and people over here are going to be so amazed with some of the things. I know when traveling before, I've been to like their, they don't call them garage sales over there, but they do have flea market kinds of stuff. That's it.
Or boot
and
sales.
yeah, something like that. And the things they have there are just incredible, and not like things that we have over here so much. And since you like to do still lifes so much, I imagine you've been able to put a lot of those to good use.
Yes, I was starting to do still lifes because I found this wonderful book, Liz Donovan, Sunlit Still Lifes.
Oh, wow.
And in it, she teaches you, like, if this is copper, here's how you would kind of do copper. If this is silver, here's how you would paint silver in watercolor. And she goes into fabric, she goes into cut crystal. So that really helped me hone a skill onto painting these types of objects.
And you've learned a lot from books, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm more book and self-taught. And there was another book. I didn't know it till I moved here. She's actually from here, Hillary Page. She's a watercolor artist. And her book was Watercolors Right from the Start. And, you know, up until then, I didn't think I could, something didn't seem right. It's like I could get the outline, draw the outline, I could get the colors, but it didn't quite look as three-dimensional as I wanted. And she had this great book where she took different shaped objects, painted them white, and she'd shine light on them from different directions. And so you could see the shadows of how if something's a cone, and then she'd put it on a colored fabric so you could see the light bouncing back and how the color reflects. So it was telling you a formula, which like I liked as a mathematician.
I know you did.
How I could take that, like even if you're folding fabrics, because I like to use fabrics, how you look for a shape in each of those folds to know how you think the shadows, even if you don't see them, or how you have to enhance it to make it more artistic. So those two books, like I think, were my key to cementing my watercolor still lifes.
And that, yes, it sounds like they were very, very inspiring and instrumental, and I can see that in your work by everything that you're doing. And anybody who's listening who's interested in watercolor, those two books sound like they'd be something that you might want to add to your library.
Definitely. I think those are two really good books to add to your library if you're a watercolor artist.
Have you ever taught any classes?
No, I'm not. I keep saying I'm still just a hobbyist, I still say. I mean, I did one time when I was with the Woodlands Art League. We, after a big volunteer session, we had all volunteered at the Waterway, I did say, well, let's just give all these volunteers just little mini lessons that we would give to them for free. So I did volunteer of how to paint fabrics in watercolors for just a couple of hours.
You had 2 or 3 other artists that were doing some instruction as well?
Yeah, we did. So in my part of the room at the county center, I was doing that, and then I think another artist, Susan Hotard, I think, was teaching like how to paint eyes in oils.
Cool.
Yeah, and so everybody got to focus on what little things they wanted at the time.
Nice.
And you're hoping that people, even if they didn't do watercolor, maybe they could learn something if they were an oil painter or that. And then in the afternoon, we had a clay artist, Virginia Mullinex, was teaching clay, and I think we had another artist maybe like learning how to paint hands or something. So,
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
it really
just
is.
hone in on one little part of
One
a
little
thing.
part. And and which you just mentioned too, that you might want to try out something else, another type, and you have tried some other another type of medium lately.
Yeah. Lately, in the last few years, I had a friend, she had never done art, and she retired, and she says, teach me to paint. And she had a sunset, she lives on the lake, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, no, not watercolor. So I said, let's pick up acrylic. And so we were trying to, the acrylic sunset. And I thought, this is fun. I haven't picked up this type of thing. So since then, I've been doing some acrylic painting and some palette knife painting, and I'm feeling free. And I'm kind of going back to some of the art I did in high school. I'm doing back some Louisiana scenes now with some blue herons and some swamps and things like that. Yeah.
Well, I think we have at least one of those in the pieces that we're going to show in just a little bit. So yeah, that'll be great. You've been involved in a lot of things, Terri. You have, since you've been here as well as when you were in Slidell. So tell me about some of your accomplishments. This is an amazing story.
Well, yeah, I've been probably for 35 years been involved in an art league, either with Slidell, the Woodlands, and now Conroe. I've always liked to get involved. I haven't in the last few years, but I was president of the Slidell Art League, and then at that time it was kind of like Conroe Art League. The city gave us a renovated above a train depot station.
I bet that was cool.
So I was in charge at the time when we were opening up the galleries there, and it was a beautiful space. For that. And while we were there, right before I came in, they did something called Art in Bloom, where you have paintings and then florists come in and kind of they don't necessarily recreate the painting, but they make some gorgeous floral display based on that painting.
What a great idea.
So when I was in Conroe a couple of years ago, and I've noticed when I was researching it, museums do it. I think maybe the Chicago Museum, I think even Houston Museum does it. They don't do it every year, but it's every 5 years. Now, I've never seen it at the museum. But what I decided, my friend Teresa Thornhill and Elisa, we decided it would be nice, though, instead of just doing it one place, if we could do a walk about the town. So I went to the establishments, the Brownlee Jewelers, the Corner Pub, the coffee shop was before, and asked them if they would be interested in putting up a painting over a weekend, and then we would have a florist come in and make a beautiful centerpiece.
How could they refuse?
I don't know. It was wonderful, and I found some florists here in the Woodlands and in Conroe, and it was just incredible. I was just amazed because the florists are their own artists in their own way. Even at the jewelers, they had, which I did not know, Janice Parrish knew it, who owns that. They have a floral department at one of the high schools. Really? One of the ones down 105, I don't remember it now. So their high school group actually did the floral design.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and so we did that for 2 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
And then my best buddies, they've moved away, Teresa and Elisa.
Yes.
So we haven't done that in a while.
Yes.
And then also with the Woodlands Art League, we did Object Day Art.
Yes.
Where for over a year we found an object, and we have my painting of that interpretation. We had 2 objects, and we passed it around to all the artists, and they would just do a painting of some sort of or they could do 3D of this object. It didn't have to be representational. It could just be abstract of what they felt. And then I asked the artist to make a statement about why they did it and why they chose to do that. So I went to Market Street. Market Street was still pretty young back then. And they had an open space, and they let us have their space for a weekend. So on one wall we had this big blue vase of paintings, and the other one was this bizarre white object that my husband thinks kind of looks like an overgrown gravy pot. I'm really not sure what it's for, but it had beautiful curves. I found it at an antique store off of 2920. It's got this beautiful spiral handle, and I think it's just beautiful.
Wow. It sounds like it.
And we've done that with the Conroe Art League.
I was going to say, that's been something.
We did
I remember a fireman's helmet one time.
We had the fireman's helmet, and we had
the
pewter teapot that
I
I'd
love that.
from
In fact, I did pieces with each of those that time. It was a lot of fun.
And we had the roller skate, the old not antique roller skate, but the roller skates that we had with the key.
Yes, with the key.
Yeah, because that's the one I did with some old blocks, like the old kids' blocks.
I know it. It's just that was a very good, fun project. Yeah, it was fun.
It's fun because it's wonderful to see everybody's interpretation.
It is, because they're all so different.
Of the same object.
All so different. They really are. So you've been a member of CAL for, would you say, about 8.5 or 9 years?
8.5 or 9 years, I guess.
Yes, I think so, because I think When I joined, you were a member, I believe, at that time too. So,
I'm in Conroe now.
And now you also have done a lot of things at the Conroe Art League and showing your art. You do monthly exhibits. Whenever we change out our work, you usually have your work there. And tell me about the show that you did, the Orange Show. Okay,
so at the time I was doing with a group of women. I think that first they were originally like two girls and a guy or something.
It is something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And so she expanded. Carrie Schmidt expanded her group, and so we displayed our art at the Conroe Central Antique store, right at Simonton, and I can't remember the corner. Simonton and something.
Was it Maine and something?
No, not Maine. Simonton.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I just can't think of the name of the
Central
street
Market.
either. Yes,
so we were anyway, we were displaying our art there, and so Carrie approached me, well, maybe you could be the highlight artist. And so I realized I had, between some of the paintings I've done with oranges, orange fabric, or some other orange things somewhere in there, I had a lot of orange. So I did I was the featured artist of the Orange Obsession.
Oh, I love it.
I love it. Obsession.
Orange Obsession. That is so great.
And that was another. I did one acrylic in there. My husband's family is from North Arkansas, and they'd had this old barn. And I tried it in watercolor, and I did it, and then I got Braid to try it in acrylics. But instead of doing it realistically, I kind of made it more eerie with the deep blue background, but a lot of orange glowing onto the thing, so it would fit in the show. And someone did buy it.
Awesome.
I know he has the other one, but so that was like starting to stretch out.
That's exactly right.
Trying to take away from my everything being realistic.
That's it. That's it. And now you're loosening up with all kinds of things. And we're going to take a look at some of your work now.
Okay,
so let's see what we've got. Tell us about this piece.
Okay, so that was the one for Object Day Art in the Woodlands Art League. And this is part of the orange fabric I like. It's a piece of orange silk.
Oh.
And to achieve all the little white, I used Misket to first, paint out all the other things, which is like just a wax resist, basically. So
detail.
I could do the detail. It just takes a lot of time. But actually, when you paint all that, it pays off because at the end you can wipe it all off.
That's true.
You have the white. So this is this white, either overgrown gravy boat, or I won't say the other thing my husband said it looks like, but I don't know what it's for. Although I do remember one of the older ladies at the Woodlands Art League said it reminded her of some Art Deco piece that she used to. Wow. And a couple of years ago in one of the artist magazines, I saw someone had that pot in a painting, but it was a light blue color.
Wow.
So this is some sort of...
Well, maybe one of our viewers is going to know exactly what that is, and when we give them your information at the end, then they can pass it on to you, because maybe that's what you've always wanted to know.
Maybe that's what I need to know.
Who knows? Okay, let's have a look at your next piece.
Okay, so here's, I'm starting to experiment with fabric. I don't know anything about a fabric store other than I usually want at least a yard of some sort of fabric. But actually, I think that's a shawl that I just picked up at a charity shop.
Okay.
And my goal here was really to try and work out that ribbon.
Ooh, yes, indeed. That must have been a challenge.
Yeah, it was a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be, because I'd done fabrics and I'd done the teacups, but I think trying to get that ribbon to look like it could twist and come up with the right shadows, I think was a little bit of a challenge on that.
I imagine it was. What's the name of that piece?
Just Raspberry Tea. Now,
Tea.
Being an engineer, vocabulary is not my... I don't have a lot of synonyms or anything like that.
Look,
I'm going to call it what it is.
My best friend is a thesaurus.
Yeah.
It sits right there on my desk all the time.
Yeah, so when my friend Elise moved away, when her husband retired, Elisa Fletcher, I gave that gift to her, because we used to call ourselves sometimes, we used to go have tea. Sarah Kitagawa, Teresa, and Elisa and I, yeah.
Oh, that's special. And I know she treasures it. Okay, what else do we have?
Okay, so this is
yummy.
exciting. This is a close-up.
Awesome.
And I entered this, and it was like the first time I entered in the Louisiana Watercolor Society International Exhibit. And I got
Ooh.
accepted.
Wow, that's an accomplishment.
And I only have entered one other time, and I didn't. But the reason I don't now is because it really is hard mailing watercolor paintings
it
that
has
are,
to be.
22 by 30.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't use glass, you use plexiglass.
Right.
But still, to mail them is really difficult.
It would be.
So.
It would be. That's actually
And
very
that's just
beautiful.
pears on silver. That's a silver tray and a little silver
I love
candy
that.
dish that I got in Scotland.
And the detail that you have on that plate is just amazing.
Yeah, and a little doily from.
Very impressed. Very impressed
Thank
with
you.
that. And the doily,
I was pretty
look
excited.
At that.
And I did go to the show because it was on Mother's Day weekend, so I went into New Orleans and took my mother to Commander's Palace. And,
Oh, how
we had a
fun.
nice time.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm sure she was excited for you too. And what else do we have? Oh, look at this.
Okay, this is my dog Sadie. I've started painting some dogs.
Isn't she precious?
Yeah, she's a smooth fox terrier, which most people don't know. They're kind of like Jack Russells, but they got a longer nose.
Longer
And
nose.
I began doing commissions for people's dogs and cats, but I usually do most of their commissions in acrylics.
Okay.
But I did my dog in watercolor because I thought she deserves special.
That's right. That's exactly right, Rose. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think you have another one to look
Yes,
at.
we do.
Ooh,
Okay, so
now
this
that's
is
another
back.
unique one.
This is
yes.
acrylic, and I couldn't even tell you. It's like on a masonite board.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's really slippery, slick surface.
Very smooth.
Yeah, so this
Yes.
is where I'm going back to some of my Louisiana roots
I
and,
can
and
tell.
doing blue hair. And my parents actually live on the water, or they did up until last year, of Lake Pontchartrain. So you could often see the heron. And we once lived on the water of in that area too. One of the times we lived back there. So my daddy, when I was younger, he was giving me pictures. Of largemouth bass. I've painted largemouth bass before. I've painted different types of ducks before. So
He was a hunter and a fisherman,
Yeah.
and so you got to see all of those
I got to
things,
see
and you
most
got
of
to
those.
paint them.
Yeah, most of those things, were either he found photos or paintings of photos I was copying when I was young from
Yes.
National Geographic.
There you go. There you go. Now, do you work mostly from still lives, you say, and then also from photographs? Do you work from photos
I
as well?
work from photographs because trying to get the timing of the lighting.
Oh, yes.
I love to take things outside and do the photographing, but sometimes that's hard. It's the little bit of wind will blow your fabric in different directions, or
That
you worry
has
about
to
you worry about if it's glass, it's going to get knocked over. I've been trying to experiment with lights, using that and trying to get the mood for lights. But I'm pretty meticulous with some of the drawing because of the watercolor.
I can tell you are.
Yeah.
You're a detailed person.
I'm a detail, and
I am impressed.
I'm trying to break away. I want to learn, and I've started doing since the pandemic, looking at a few YouTubes and trying to learn to do watercolor the way it was meant. Let the water and the paper tell you how to happen, what to do. I'm trying to loosen up because I think that will actually move me a step further even in the
Well, it's
right
always
direction.
good to try something new and branch out a little bit, because sometimes we can get a little bit stuck where we are, and it gives us a little push and helps us to expand a little bit. So it's always fun to do that. Because you told me too that you're trying different, like you say, different papers and different surfaces, and then you've got So you're experimenting. You're trying some new stuff.
I'm experimenting.
I
So I hope to have maybe some new type of. They might still be still lifes, but I'm hoping they're brighter or bigger or maybe more contemporary looking.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's okay. Well, I thank you for all that you've shared with us today. You've got beautiful work. You've accomplished so many things, Terri, and I have always admired you and your work. And so we want to make sure, though, that these folks know where they can see your work. So tell us now, you have monthly shows at Cal, you have your work there. And then do you have any online presence, or how can folks get in touch with you?
Well, I don't really have any online presence. I've been a little lazy about doing that, but I have I'm at the Cal Gallery.
Right.
And, I don't know if we share. Do we share our Gmails or anything like that?
If you like to share your email, it would be fine. If you want them to have that, it's up to you.
Okay. Well, I'm at Terri Bear Art, and that's a bear like Bear, and I use that because my maiden name is Bear.
It is.
So anyway,
That's great. Well, that's good. And you can always find her work along with all the other artists from the Conroe Art League at Cal. And we'd like for you to visit us just any time when we're open, which is Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. We call ourselves the best little art gallery in historic downtown Conroe, and we're at 127 Simonton Street. So please join us at the gallery where we live by our creed, which is create, appreciate, and learn.